Good evening, good afternoon, good wherever you are in the world. I'm Kalari Cuddles, and we are going to be working on day 8's Inktober prompt. I've already started a little bit of the doodle. I actually have to finish it as she has no head. Today is going to be a very symbolic piece with something I deal with personally. So the word is frail, and the entire time that I had this word or looking at the prompt, I was sitting there trying to figure out what I was going to draw for Frail. Because, what is Frail? In my opinion, it's something that is weak. Which, that's probably what a lot of people think it is. People were saying, draw an anti-vaxxer's kid, draw an old lady, draw old people. And all of those are good. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say, like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, the anti-vaxxer thing would have been, like, super funny. I feel like you would have had to explain what that was. Like, I'd have to put on the back, this is an anti-vaxxer, or have them hold up a kid, or a sign that says that this is, I wasn't vaccinated for this, or something along those lines, whatever. Great. Like, that would have been, like, hilarious. It's something that's, trending right now. It's, a growing problem. It would have made sense. Like, great. But I was like, no one's gonna get it. Blah, blah, blah. So, essentially, that's why I didn't go with any of those. But then I thought about it, and I kept thinking more and more about, like, what is frail to me? Like, what is frail? What is frail? Like, what does that word mean to me? And I came up with what I finally came up with. And I know it's very symbolic, and it's gonna be one of those, the whole concept behind, like, why I didn't want to do the anti-vaxxer thing, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to explain that. And blah blah blah. And I know this one's gonna be one of those two where I'm gonna have to explain it, and no one's gonna get it. Like, just looking at it, they're gonna be like, oh, what the fuck is this? So I'm drawing essentially someone that is falling. These are supposed to be kind of like symbolism to feathers, so almost like a fallen angel, but they're not an angel. So when you ask me what do I think the word frail means, I instantly think of myself. I view myself as, I view all people as angels. We are angels to somebody. We are also the devil to somebody. So why do I view myself as frail? It's not something that I advertise unless, like, I'm trying to tell people what I go with. That, and I also don't want the whole, oh, you poor thing kind of feedback from people. So I suffer from what is called fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. A little backstory, I've had this for about 9 years. I used to be, like, really active. Like, I did charity work all the time, and I still worked. I worked at, like, Target, then I went to culinary school and all this stuff. I was always, a very active person. I loved getting into things like going to the beach and running and doing all this exercising and stuff like that. And I was always in shape. Like, I was never, like, an unhealthy person. I was very active. I liked moving around, doing things, adventures, the whole kit and caboodle. Well, about 9 years ago, I started to just, feel pain all the time, like, for no reason. Like, At first I never really thought anything through it about it because I did work out a lot, and I did it's when I lived in Florida, and like everything was very close by, so I did do a lot of walking and stuff like that. And I just thought, oh, my body hurts because I walked too much, or I worked out too hard, or something along the sorts of those lines is generally the excuse I gave myself to why I was in pain. So I never really thought anything about it, but as, you know, like when it was colder and stuff, like it does get cold in Florida, so like it's like a misconception that it's like never cold there. Not true, it does actually get quite cold there. When it started to get cold there, you know, I started to notice the pain more, you know, because when it got cold like that, you know, most people that do live in Florida, they don't really own that many winter clothes. It's because, you know, it's freaking like warm there most of the time. So when something does like in the 40s or 30s show up, like one year that I lived there, it got like down to the 10s, and I was not equipped for clothes like that. I had like at most like a light jacket, and so I froze my butt off that year, to say the least. Um, and I started to feel a lot of pain, and at first I didn't understand it. I was just like, what is this pain? And I did live with someone who was much older, and they were just like, oh, it might be arthritis. And I was just like, well, my dad has that, so maybe that's the case. They always, you know, and then I've always heard a lot of older people say their body aches when it's, you know, cold outside. So I didn't think anything of it. I was like, whatever, it's cold outside, my body's just aching because of that, you know, it's gotta be that. And I brushed that off. Well, things went bad in Florida, and I had to move back home, which home for me is Alabama. I moved back to Alabama, and I started to notice that this pain that I had did not go away. I continued to feel it, and it got worse and worse and worse as the time went on. But I never knew what it was, and I really didn't have good health insurance or any health insurance at all. So I never like went to any doctors about it. I just kind of like brushed it off, essentially. And that was the end of it. So then I went to culinary school, and then I noticed the pain started to progressively get worse there. And then I got out of culinary school, and the pain got even worse and even worse. And then there were times where it got more worse and more worse. And I finally went to get my diagnosis, and I found out, you know, I have fibromyalgia, which it's a long, hasty process to get such a diagnosis. The pen that I'm going to be using is going to be this Micron pen. So I got the diagnosis, and yeah, it's just this condition that I suffered from. Then I jumped between a lot of jobs. I didn't have insurance, couldn't afford it, so I never got treatment for it. I finally got, you know, like my first real management job. I was an executive. Well, I was like head baker of this college, and it got to the point where my pain was so severe, I was forgetting things. I could barely walk. There were times where I literally had to call out of work because I couldn't like get out of bed. There were times I fell and was rendered useless, like I couldn't even walk. it just got so bad with me working to the point where my immune system started suffering from it. I was constantly sick. I remember there was one month in like February where one person came to work with walking pneumonia, and I got it, and I suffered from it for a whole entire month. And I missed an entire month of work. And after that, I just, I decided, you know what, I have to think about my health, and I'm just not going to work anymore, and blah, blah, blah. So that's where I'm at now. So, yeah. Fibromyalgia is very debilitating. There are days where I can function. Well, okay, the best way to describe it is I'm always in pain. I'm in pain right now doing this video. There is manageable pain, and then there is pain that renders me useless. And I'm always told to scale my pain on a scale of 1 to 10. So my regular daily pain is like a 4 or 5. So like right now I'm sitting about a 5. And yeah, that's what I deal with on a regular. There are days where I get to a 7 where it starts to become a little bit of a hindrance. More like I have to do things in spurts. And then there's days where I sit at a 10 and I literally can't do anything. I can't even go make me something to eat. It's so difficult to walk. There's times where the pain makes me not able to sleep. There's other times where it only makes me sleep. So yeah, I feel frail all the time because you should be able to, take a bath yourself. You should be able to feed yourself. You should be able to put on your own clothes. You should be, a strong person can do all of that. But I can't always do that because my body doesn't let me, and it's not very forgiving. So that's why I'm drawing this today, because I feel this describes me. I was once an angel, and now I've been plucked from heaven and sent falling to the earth to feel this shattering pain, and I don't know why. So yeah, I know it's a little darker and this piece is a little more symbolic, but I wanted it to be this way. I kept, it honestly came down to because I couldn't think of what to draw for this day, and this is just my tribute piece to what I suffer from on a regular basis. And I hope someone who watched this video got some type of maybe information, or just now has a better outlook on their life, or they now hear this and they're like, oh, I know somebody in my life who suffers from the same thing. I can give them information, because yeah, information makes the world better. Or maybe someone seeing this will understand, just because someone looks okay doesn't mean that they are. And yeah. So this is my piece that I dedicate to my fibromyalgia suffering. And yeah, I feel frail. And that's my piece dedicated to it. Sorry today was a little more darker than normal. It meant something to me, and I had to draw it and express myself. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Stay cuddly. See you guys in the next adventure.